seconds. 4 seconds. Haliburton for the lead. And the Pacers are moving on. Tensions rising on the court.
I believe being humble and victor, having a fan cursing at me, I think is totally unacceptable.
I don't think that my pops was in the right at all. Unfortunate, what happened in the end there.
A lot of people out there that are when you win the game, it's a green light for you to be disrespectful towards somebody else. I disagree. I've won the championship. They haven't.
Good day. Welcome to First Take on a Wednesday. The Bucks-Pacers Game 5 went to OT last night. It featured a collapse and controversy that you just saw. It's a Mad Dog Wednesday. Brian Windhorst is here. Stephen A. I'm Molly Qerim. Guys, let's dive right into this because there's a whole lot to unpack. Giannis Antetokounmpo posted a 30-point, 20-rebound, 13-assist triple-double, but Indiana forced 2 turnovers in the final 29 seconds of OT, and Hali blew past Antetokounmpo for a layup to close an 8-0 run and steal one from the Bucks. Hali hit a go-ahead layup with 1.3 seconds left in that OT that gave them a series-clinching 119-118 victory Tuesday night. Entering Tuesday, teams that were 1,609-0 in the playoffs when leading by at least 7 points with 40 seconds or fewer remaining in the fourth quarter overtime in the play-by-play era, which dates back to 97-98. All right, a lot to deal with. First, we're going to start with the game. Stephen A., how bad was this collapse?
Well, listen, it was a collapse, but as bad as it looked, it really came down to a couple of things, and it involves Gary Trent Jr. And I'm really sorry for him because he played sensational, particularly in the overtime. The brother hit 3 or 4 straight threes. He was a marksman out there. But then 2 inexplicable turnovers. You don't jump up in the air to throw a pass when you're pressed like that. That was mistake number 1, number turnover. And then you see Doc Rivers just cover his head and all of this other stuff because the ball went right through his hands for the second turnover that basically put Indiana in a position for Haliburton to ultimately close the deal right there. You got to get, it's inexplicable. It just went through his hands. That's not about coaching at that point. That's about, it's not just about making plays. It's about making sure you don't make bad plays. And in that particular thing, he knows. My heart goes out to him because he played a hell of a game.
He did.
And to have those 2 turnovers obviously cost him. And that's what makes it bad. What makes it catastrophic potentially is if Giannis Antetokounmpo looks at this situation and says, it's time for me to move on. I need to move on beyond. It'll be his decision.
Yeah.
There is no doubt about that. Milwaukee will hold on to him for dear life as much as they can. But if he decides, particularly with Damian Lillard now tearing his Achilles, that the future's just not bright for me here in Milwaukee, I need to move on, this loss, would be the culminating point.
Yeah, after the NBA Cup, it felt like the hits just kept on coming for this team. Mad Dog?
Well, the first thing I'll say is let's not blame coaches for a change. Everybody wants to kill Redick for playing 5 guys at the end of the game 4. We're going to kill Thibodeau later with the timeout, not getting his 2 players, and this is not Doc's fault. He told him on the last possession, we have a foul to give. They didn't give the foul. Haliburton gets the layup. Steve just hit it on Trent. That's a horrific loss. Now, the one thing I would say, in the moment, it's a horrific loss. This is not Game 7. They were not going to win the series anyway. They're down 3-1 without Lillard. I think Indiana would have won Game 6. So I don't expect the Buck fan to feel that way because this is so immediate, and I don't expect the player to feel that way or the coach, but I do as a fan. All right, terrible loss, awful. What a way to end the season. But I don't think they were getting through the series. It wasn't a Game 7. So I don't think they were getting to the series anyway. As far as Giannis is concerned, I'd love to see him stay. First off, it would show me a lot to bail on that city now with Lillard out, with the way they've played, and now he's going to leave. You're crippling the franchise. That's the first thing. Second thing, he's already won a championship. Most of the guys who leave after being in a city for a period of time, they haven't won yet, and they want to have a chance to win one. Well, he's got one.
But I feel like, I want to get Windy in here, but Windy, I feel like we saw glimpses this season of what this team could be. Obviously, they had the blood clot, and then now the Achilles, and Bobby Portis was gone for a bit. So we never really got to see them entirely at full strength. Windy?
Yeah, but the problem with that, Molly, is that next season doesn't have Dame Lillard, or at least for a large part of it. To me, this was a story of 2 players, and Gary Trent, you could have, written a movie about what happened to him in this game, but this was about Tyrese Haliburton and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Tyrese Haliburton, I just want to remind you, 10 days ago or so, was ridiculed by his peers in the NBA because there's this poll that comes out in The Athletic where they polled 150 players and Tyrese Haliburton was voted the most overrated player. Now, I think that's related to the fact that he was on Team USA last year. He didn't get a lot of playing time. Of course that affects you. So here he is in a closeout situation where he is awesome. We're not even showing the highlight of the dunk that he had that forced overtime. He has an incredible driving dunk that forces overtime. Then his team is in big trouble down the stretch, and he makes 2 killer drives to the basket. And I just want to talk about the last play. The ball goes out of bounds. It goes in between Trent's legs, okay? That means that the Pacers get to call the play. And they call the play to have Pascal Siakam come up and set the screen for him. They know that Giannis is going to be on Siakam. So that means on the sideline they said, we're going to isolate Tyrese Haliburton on Giannis Antetokounmpo because we believe he can win us the game. And he makes it happen. He gets the corner turned, beats the Bucks defense, and scores on the former Defensive Player of the Year. Amazing. It's a supreme moment in his career. I realize he will later want to win bigger playoff games later in the playoffs. He's on top of the scorers table, having his moment, and he tweets after the game, overrate that, which is an ode to Kobe Bryant, something that happened when he tweeted something years ago. Amazing moment. And then you look at the other side of it, which is Giannis. This is a statistic. I've been talking about it this week. It just got worse. It's devastating for the Bucks fans, and I'm sorry for them to bring it up. In the last 10 playoff games Giannis has played in, he has averaged 30 points, 15 rebounds, and 6 assists. Last night he had 30, 20, and 13, and they're 1-9 in those games. Yep. It's devastating. And he has done nothing this year but focus on this season. There's been no whispers out there. There's been nobody in that organization who've been like, wow, he may not want to be here. If you call his agent and say you want to talk about it, he will shut you down. Okay? He has been focused on this season. But how can you ignore that? How can you ignore 3 straight first-round exits and knowing that Dame Lillard is potentially going to be out for most of, if not all of next season? It's not his fault, but that's just reality.
1-9 in the last 10 playoff games. What that says is that when you're averaging 13, 15, and 6, and you go 1-9, you don't have enough help. And there's no help on the horizon. So when you look at it from that standpoint, why would he want? And my only last thing that I want to say to you, Doggy, because I know we got another subject that I want to get to real quick. Yeah. I want to get to that. This is the last point that I'll make to you, Doggy. When you win a championship for a city, you're not bailing. If you don't deliver the goods, I get that part. But when you've been to this in the city for years,
you can go that way,
and you delivered the chip, you finished the job.
You can leave.
You've afforded yourself that luxury. I totally agree with you if you ain't bringing them a championship. But if you've delivered a championship, then you don't owe a city.
You just have to make sure it's the right situation where the grass is greener.
Well, nobody
and that
really
doesn't always happen.
And it doesn't always pan out that way.
It doesn't always happen. But again, you've earned the right.
Yeah, because you delivered the goods. Absolutely.
Well, that's what Kareem did. He won his title and he went to L.A.
He delivered.
Guys, obviously the story should be about the game, but this is really what caught my attention. So according to Giannis, Tyrese Haliburton's father, John, walked toward the Bucks star waving a towel, swearing at him, and what Giannis called a disrespectful exchange on the floor. Here's Giannis with how he believes victory should be handled.
One thing I'll say is that I believe like being humble in victory. That's how I am. Now there's can be a lot of people out there that are like, no, when you win the game, you gotta talk and you know it's a green light for you to be disrespectful towards somebody else. I disagree. I've won the championship. They haven't. You know, having somebody's that which I'm happy for him and I'm happy for his son and I'm happy that he's happy for his son. That's how you're supposed to feel. But coming to me and disrespecting me and cursing at me, I think is totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. It's not respectful. I talked with him at the end. I think we're in a good place.
Had no idea it happened until I got to the back and was showed the video. Me and my pops have talked about that, and I don't agree with what transpired there from him. I think basketball is basketball, and let's keep it on the court.
All right, Haliburton's dad apologized on X, Twitter, after the game, writing this: "I sincerely apologize to Giannis, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Pacers organization, for my actions following tonight's game. This was not a good reflection on our sport or my son. I will not make that mistake again." The TNT crew also got in a heated discussion post-game regarding this confrontation. Take a listen.
He's not supposed to be on the court.
It don't
He's not
matter.
supposed to be on the court.
Giannis talked to him. Forget all that.
No, he was on the court.
So what?
No, the reason you think he said something? He probably didn't know who his dad is.
Stop it. Giannis said something to him.
No, because he's on the court in his face.
So what? Everybody on the
you
court.
can't do that.
Yeah, you can.
No,
Everybody
you
on the
cannot
court.
do that.
Giannis said something to him.
So you think his dad was
with
correct?
Grace?
No, his dad was 100% wrong.
Giannis is wrong?
Bro, Giannis said something to him.
No, he did not.
Yes, he did.
No, he not.
Look, right there.
No, his dad is coming up to him. What is his dad doing on the court? His dad is not supposed to be on the court.
His dad is
You
always
can
on
yell
the
as
court
much as you
every
want to.
game.
He's an idiot. If you think that's right, you're an idiot too.
All right, I usually don't agree with Shaq, but he's completely wrong. That was embarrassing clown behavior by his father. Stephen A., do you think the NBA should punish Hali's dad?
Yes, I do. I do think that he should be punished. The Indiana Pacers can't do this. Tyrese Haliburton is not overrated. The brother can ball, okay? And that's one of their star players. And the Indiana Pacers can't take the position that I am going to penalize the father of the star of one of our star players.
Can't do it.
You can't do that. The league can. The league can, and the league should. Now, Mr. Haliburton, I don't know him. I've met him once or twice. Obviously, he's a passionate fan of his son, and obviously he's an incredibly supportive father. But I think that this should go down as one of the most embarrassing moments of his life. He should be ashamed of himself. Kenny Smith brought up how LeBron James had basically told his mom, his own mother, to sit down years ago when his mother had said something or clapped at some of the players. You don't want that as a player. And I think that Mr. Haliburton needs to understand this is a very, very big deal. Your son sat on a podium in front of the media with the national television cameras rolling and said, "My dad was wrong." You have any idea how egregious that is? The son is having to check the father.
And he stole the shine
understand?
from his son's moment.
Yeah, again, because, you act like you out there playing. You're not. Your son is out there playing. And to clarify things for Shaq, because maybe Shaq didn't see this part, this man walked up and while everybody's celebrating, and Giannis is just standing there stunned that they blew a 7-point lead with just 40 seconds left and just standing there shell-shocked and distraught. His father comes up waving whatever poster of his son in his face, and as Giannis said, was cussing at him and talking smack to him. What are you doing?
Beyond.
What are you doing?
Embarrassing.
You're not a player. You're not out there. Even the players didn't do that to Giannis. So why would you do something like that? No regard for how this would impact the Pacers. No regard for how this would impact his son. And his father is not beyond talking to people about his son. It may not be on the court. I remember when he told me he was looking to talk to me one time, it was on the sidelines or whatever. I forget what it was for, but it certainly wasn't anything disrespectful. I'm not implying that because I wanted the Knicks to draft Tyrese Haliburton. Long before Jalen Brunson arrived, I wanted them to draft Tyrese Haliburton. That's what I thought about him. But what really, really hit me was the fact that, first of all, that's not Giannis. That's not how he acts. Giannis is a composed individual, a champion, one of the greatest players on the planet who has the kind of attitude that all of us revere. We want that level of competition. We want that fervor. But he doesn't act like that towards anybody. He's class personified. And in the case of Tyrese Haliburton, he's also classy. And even when it appears he's chirping with Damian Lillard and all of that stuff, that's players going against players. Does anybody have any idea what it took for Tyrese Haliburton to sit on a podium in front of a national audience and say my father was wrong? Think about that. A son having to go on in front of the public.
No, I get it.
And lament what his own father did.
When the focus also should have been on his moment.
The NBA needs to keep. They need to make sure they address.
Yeah, before I bring
Haliburton.
in Windy, what do you think? What type of punishment are you thinking?
Well, I don't know. Like you don't want to say ban him from games. Maybe ban him from a game or two. Maybe. But if you can't do that, you got to put on notice if it happens again. You need to do something. I don't know specifically what that is because, again, he's a fan. He's sitting in the stands. He should never be on the court again. That should never happen. But if there's a way to keep him out of the arena for a game or two, or even for the next series, it wouldn't bother me. Just to send a message to anybody out there, you don't get to do this. Yeah. You don't get to do this. And again, I feel very sorry for Tyrese Haliburton. I really do.
Wendy, I know you have more context on this.
So I know John Haliburton. I've traveled the world with him. I've had many conversations with him. He is a wonderful guy. He is so proud of Tyrese coming from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. When he was a kid, they never respected the kids from the rural areas. If you weren't from Milwaukee or Chicago, they didn't care about you. Iowa State's a great program, but he thought he should have gone to a bigger school, and he got passed up in the draft, and he's so proud of his son. And he and Tyrese's mom, Brenda, are fixtures in Indianapolis. That's Brenda you see in the background of the shot. She's looking at Giannis and she's looking at John. She's worried something's going to happen. That's Brenda. Brenda and John Haliburton have been adopted by the city of Indianapolis, and they're very comfortable in the arena, which is why he did this. Clearly, absolutely unacceptable. No way the Pacers can allow any fan, whether it's the father of a player or not, onto the court and approach one of the Bucks players in that moment. Completely unacceptable by Pacers security. He got away with it, I'm sure, because he's John Haliburton. Absolutely unacceptable for John Haliburton. This is not a reflection of who he is. He's a competitive man and a proud man, but I promise you this is not the type of person he is, and this is a moment that I'm sure he's very upset about. And the penalty, whatever it might be, whether it's he can't sit courtside or whatever sanction, I promise you it's not worse than the fact that this has become a spotlight on his son's amazing moment, okay? He's so proud of his son, and he so wants to defend his son because he's been defending his son his whole life. I understand he's got a $200 million contract and a gold medal, but the reason he's reacting to that is he's defending his son from being called overrated. And he's being penalized right now on this show that we're not focusing on Tyrese's play. That's what is happening.
If I did that, the NBA, I would never be allowed at a ball game again. If Christopher Russo ran on the court and I had that seat and I got on the court, got through security, and approached an opposing player and went head-to-head with him after a loss, I guarantee it. I would be banned.
That's an interesting perspective.
I would never be allowed to be on the court again. Now you're going to give him a little break because it's his father and everything else. I expect better behavior from a parent, not worse behavior, better behavior. Now the NBA, it can be very soft here. He should be punished. To me, he should not be allowed. Now listen, you're going to put him in the backstage. I don't want to see him at an arena here the rest of this postseason. Go to the games, watch it in the freaking clubhouse, in the family area. That should be the punishment, because if it's Chris Russo or Stephen A. or anybody else, you are not allowed. The NBA is going to ban you from the arena. Why is this different? Why is this different? Why is this behavior, you know what, we'll give him a break, give him a game, no big deal. No. Because if that's you, me, or anybody else, you are not allowed in. They're not going to allow you into the arena. That's my problem with it. So I'm going to punish him more than, I don't want to call it a nominal punishment that you said, but that's not too strict, a game or so. Let him sit there in the family room for the next postseason, for this postseason.
Or let him be in the suite so you don't have to worry about him getting courtside.
Even better.
Or let him be, you're not, but you're not going to come anywhere near courtside again. Wendy, to address your point, I'm not here to cast any aspersions about this man. Overall, we don't know him. He does love his son dearly. He is incredibly proud of his son. And anybody who hints at any shred of negativity about his son, he is going to come to his son's defense. We got that. But Wendy, you left something out. Everybody in the league knows he talks a lot of smack about his son all the time.
That's true.
Everybody in the league knows that most times it's unsolicited. A lot of times he's not clapping back at people who said something about his son. he's clapping at people about his son who never talked about his son, who never said a negative word about his son. So we got to take that. Agents have complained about him. Other players have complained to the league about him. Call the league office. They have complained about him. He is one of those individuals, no matter how much of a great man he may be, and unquestionably a great father who dearly loves his son. Because of that, there is an extra level of bravado he has exercised where I spoke to the league office this morning. You've had some people. They've heard a lot about some of the things that he has said to players and others. Agents have called complaining about him. So this morning, when you look at him, even though everything Wendy says is right, because nobody says he's a bad person.
Yeah.
Nobody questions his integrity as a man and how much of a good man he is. They say this is not him talking smack. That's in line with who he has been. It's just that we saw it on the court last night. And in the end, what it comes down to is Tyrese Haliburton. If it wasn't for Tyrese, it wouldn't matter nearly as much. I'm telling y'all will remember, even more so than what that man did, that man's son. I've been covering the NBA for close to 30 years. I can't recall a moment when I saw a son have to go in front of the national cameras and literally say, my parent was wrong. They had no business doing this. And that is the position he put his son in. And that is the shame of it.
I just think the last thing I'll say is I never judge somebody by their worst moment. But to Stephen A's point, your son hits a game-winning shot. He's moving on. And your instinct is to get in the face of the star of the other team. Like,
who played a great game.
It's just unfathomable to me.
Bad for Giannis.
Who, by the way, is class personified.
Yeah, you
Giannis
heard it. You heard
it.
how he handles it.
Exactly
Yeah,
right.
being classy even in defeat.
You know?
The whole thing was embarrassing. And what it reminded me a bit of, Stephen A., is we were talking about the Ulbrich situation. Remember who pranked Deion Sanders' son?
Which is a joke.
And how the son reflected so poorly on the father. This is that same situation. It's going to have people looking at Tyrese sideways as well, whether it's fair or not. It is, Stephen A.
No, it's not.
Whether it's fair or not, it does.
It is not. You are wrong. Nobody's looking at Tyrese Haliburton wrong. Nobody. He couldn't have handled it more perfectly. Nobody is looking at him. They're looking at his dad. His dad did this. This is Tyrese Haliburton.
Stephen A., your family's decisions can sometimes reflect poorly on you
Not
as well.
in this case.
That is your opinion, Stephen
Not
A.
in this case.
I promise you
and
that's
I'm
not
telling you,
everybody's
you're dead
opinion.
wrong.
Okay, so you're saying everyone is, no one's looking at him.
Why would anybody look at Tyrese Haliburton, Molly? Why? He goes up, he finds out what happens. He goes on national television and says, my dad was wrong. Why would anybody look at Tyrese Haliburton wrong? Why?
I don't know. Maybe because he was chirping the whole season as well, and his father's an extension of him. I'm just telling you, it's your opinion. A child is
an extension. So in other words, the child is an extension of his father. And because
Stephen A., you're making a blanket statement. You're saying that you don't know that. You haven't spoken to every single person.
Well, you don't know it either.
Opinion. People have differing opinions.
I'm saying you don't know it either.
We're just discussing it with people.
Tyrese Haliburton, somebody is looking wrong at him when he goes on national television and calls out his own father?
Yes.
But people feel a certain way about him because otherwise he wouldn't have won that, one.
He wouldn't have been leading that. And Stephen A., most overrated by the players.
I'm talking about the incident last night. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about how people feel about Haliburton overall. I'm talking about last night's incident.
And Wendy and I are telling you how people feel as well. So we'll leave it there.
And by the way, I had the Bucks to win the series, another loss in the.
How much you lose? Yeah, 10 grand. All right.